Today I'm going to talk about mobile usage analytics solution, and I'm going to use AWS Mobile Analytics for this, and I'm going to briefly touch upon fundamentally how this solution works, what are its capabilities, and what are the ways to extend it beyond the basic capabilities it provides, right? So let me get started. And first of all, the way the mobile analytics is designed is in AWS is basically it's a platform as a service, so it's a hosted solution. So as of now, it's available from the US East region, and it can be used globally irrespective of which region your other services are. And it basically works by um, distributing an SDK or embedding an SDK inside the applications which intend to send usage analytics data to the hosted platform. So essentially, they provide JavaScript, Android, iPhone, those kind of all those sort of SDKs to embed in your app and capture the analytics data. In terms of the capabilities, these SDKs are quite sophisticated in terms of how they aggregate this data before sending. That means they batch it up in the client side and send once in a while to preserve bandwidth and increase the reliability. It's also sent in an async mode so that the network communication latency or failure doesn't impact at all the main application flow. So having said that, then the platform generated reports, however, are sort of quite basic in nature. It generates a time series graph of the captured information in terms of the events. Also, the events that are the events that gets captured on the client side are sort of basic. It captures three sorts of events, if you like. It captures the platform information or the device information based on its SDK's capabilities. Certain basic information like what OS it is, what browser it is, or what device it is, and so on. And then it also captures information about the application. So when you define your application on the server side, you name it and you generate an ID for the application. The same ID is required for sending the events from the client side. So that ID is used for then generating the events and understanding which application generated those events. So there is this context about the app. And then finally, there is this context about the end user. Mobile analytics solution, AWS Mobile Analytics platform uses AWS Cognito for understanding the user context. The Cognito is the identity service from AWS. So in a nutshell, this is the solution that AWS Mobile Analytics provides, and there are a few extension points using which the solution can be extended. First of all, on the SDK side, on the client side, you can have your own SDKs. You can, in addition to the AWS's SDK, you can use any third-party SDK or your custom code or your own business logic to generate data about your transactions, about the app context or additional metadata about the app. You can also capture data about the user, whatever you like. So there are two types of additional attributes that you can capture using custom events of mobile analytics of AWS. These custom events can support either additional attributes. It can support any number of additional attributes you like, and then on top it can also support gathering metrics, that is numeric data along with each event. It could mean something like monetization in terms of dollar value of certain business transactions. It could also mean performance like latency and so on. And the second extension point would be extending the data that's captured on the server side to a more elaborate data warehousing kind of solution. In this case, AWS has its own data warehouse platform, which is Redshift. So AWS Mobile Analytics can export its data directly, automatically to Redshift, and this Redshift data then can be augmented or modified with your own data from other sources. You can correlate, your data from multiple sources, and then that data can be visualized. This is the third enhancement point, by more enriched and federated reporting. In this case, I have used a tool which is good, which is Tableau, to generate this kind of nice looking reports. So these are three major extension areas. Now let me go back to demonstrating these capabilities using a simple app. So what I did is I have a simple JavaScript based application. This JavaScript application essentially has certain buttons. On click of these buttons, I can generate some events that I want to capture and send it to the server side using the AWS Mobile Analytics SDK. I'm using the JavaScript SDK. So this SDK requires me to use Cognito, and Cognito kind of internally recognizes the user and gives me option to either myself in the app, I can recognize the user, authenticate the user, so it is developer authenticated user, or I can use one of the Cognito capabilities like a third-party service like Facebook, and then I can start generating additional events. So in this case, let me first start with an anonymous user. You'll notice as soon as I click it, there may not be an event, but they will batch it up, and subsequently once I start clicking on more things, it will start sending these events to the server side. So this app already embeds the SDK and uses the capabilities of mobile analytics solution. So look at this. It first calls the Cognito service on the US East, and then once the user is sort of obtained a token or something that is used for communicating further with the server side, right, and then the events are sent. Let me explain this thing using a slide. So what happens in this case is that AWS has designed its mobile analytics to use Cognito for two purposes. One is identifying the end user who is using the mobile, and secondly, using that identity also to secure the communication with the server side. So the mobile analytics SDK doesn't use any other additional credential to integrate with the server side platform of the mobile analytics. Essentially what happens, it first calls the Cognito service. In this communication, the user might be pre-authenticated by the developer, or Cognito itself might be used to authenticate the user, and this authenticated user or the app who is representing the user is then sent back with a token. This token then used for further communication with the mobile analytics service, and that kind of provides the necessary security for the server side to identify the authentic source of event in this case. So let me show you another flow with a let's say login with Facebook kind of an app. So this is another small app. In this case, this app has a login page, and then once the login is done, then it switches to the home page. So you can look at this title section of this app. So it also has a login with Facebook button. So let me click that button. So as soon as I click this button, right, there would be a small pop-up. It basically launches a login with Facebook option. Once I am done logging in with Facebook, the pages change to the home page section, and my Facebook login is completed. And then you can see subsequently it starts communicating with Cognito, and if we look at the data in the Cognito, it's basically sending some identity ID, and then um, eventually it should be able to um, post my data with that ID. This data, second one, is basically sent to the mobile analytics. The first one was sent to Cognito to obtain the necessary security tokens, and then the second one uses the token to send data to the send events, the analytics events to the mobile analytics service to say this is an event, to start a session, right? So this is basically how the communication works, right, between the client side and the server side. Now let's have a look at the capabilities of the reporting, right? So on the reporting side, like I said, the reporting platform of mobile analytics service of AWS is sort of basic. It captures the user information, uh, session information, and based on how many times the same device or same user comes back, how many times, how long they're sticking to the session, those things are used for generating these reports. Uh, and if I generate um, custom events, those also can be used to, generate some graphs. The shortcomings or the limitation, however, is that in this graph the visualizations are very limited. So basically I can either see a bar chart or a time curve, right? And then I cannot do a lot of sophisticated visuals, right? I cannot do filter. um, I can do filter by custom dashboard, which I have done for a few for my custom events. For example, let's say I can split the traffic by application if I capture the application names as a separate parameter in my custom event, right? I can use my own transactions data or transaction attribute and then say how the transactions stack up in a time series curve and so on. So this is an understanding of how the reports look like. Now if I would have extended this basic capability using some, let's say, an additional tool like, let's say, exported data to Redshift, and then use any RDBMS capable visualization tool to extract this data, and then fundamentally draw some nice charts. I can use that. I have in this case used Tableau to do that. So what I got to do is, I've got to go to the AWS Mobile Analytics service in AWS console, and in the console I got to basically start exporting this data. So I need to click on the export, and once I click on the export, I can choose the option to export the data to Redshift. Um, you can also do only to S3, and once I choose that, then I have to basically create or select a new S3 bucket. I have to basically assign a role to make sure that the data is only accessible to the specific S3 buckets. And I can also define the passwords for my Redshift cluster, so that when I'm using another source to view this data, or this another application to extract this data or push additional data into Redshift, these passwords can be used. So this is a basic configuration screen. Once this is all done, then my data is ready to be exported or imported or visualized from another tool. So in this case, I have used Tableau for generating some reports. For example, this is a report which can show number of records versus average transaction time. One thing is important to remember here, that the basic capabilities of AWS Mobile Analytics does not capture a lot of application performance information by default. Some of these things are more sophisticated, some additional SDK or some additional logic needed to make those things work. But you can straight away see the difference between the basic reporting visualization of AWS Mobile Analytics platform and a more sophisticated tool like Tableau, right? These reports look much more sophisticated in terms of the visualization and the filters they can apply. They can apply multiple parameter based filters, many things, right? So yeah, so that's about it in this short presentation. Hope you enjoyed it.